Hello everyone, in this tutorial I will solve the ministerial question of lesson 3.3. Question number 1, if x equals tan y, then find dy over dx. Differentiate both sides with respect to x. Derivative of x is 1 equal to derivative of tan y is 1 over cosine square y times the derivative of the angle y prime, then y prime equal to cosine square y equal to 1 minus sine square y, since cosine square y plus sine square y equal 1, then cosine square y equal to 1 minus sine square y. The right choice is A. Question number 2, if y square equal x, then find y prime. Differentiate both sides with respect to x. 2y prime equal to 1, then y prime equal to 1 over 2y. Choice D. Question number 3, if x power 2 minus y power 2 equal to y, then find y prime. Differentiate both sides with respect to x. 2x minus 2y prime equal to 2y prime. Set all term with y prime in one side. 2x equal to 2y prime plus 2y prime. Factorize by y prime, and for the right side, 2x equal to y prime, 2y plus 2. Then y prime equal to 2x over 2y plus 1 equal to, reduce 2 with 2, x over y plus 1. Choice A. Number 4, if x equal y plus sine y, find y prime. Differentiate both sides. Derivative of x is 1 equal to y prime plus y prime cosine y. 1 equal to, factorize by y prime, 1 plus cosine y, then y prime equal to 1 over 1 plus cosine y. Choice B. Question number 5. If y squared minus x squared equal 9, then find y prime. Differentiate both sides with respect to x. 2y prime minus 2x equals 0. Then 2y prime equal to 2x. Reduce 2 with 2. Then y prime equal to x over y. Choice A. Question number 6. If x power 2 minus 3xy plus y square equal negative 4, then find y prime at the point 2, 2. First, we find y prime. Differentiate both sides with respect to x. 2x minus 3. Deal with this term as a multiply of two functions x and y. The first one times the derivative of the second one plus the second one times the derivative of the first one, 1. Plus 2y prime equals 0. Then 2x, open this bracket, negative 3xy prime minus 3y plus 2y prime equal 0. Then 2x minus 3y equal to 3xy prime minus 2y prime. Then 2x minus 3y equal to, factorize by y prime, 3x minus 2y. Then y prime equal to 2x minus 3y over 3x minus 2y. At the point 2, 2, 2 times 2, 4, minus 3 times 2, 6, 3 times 2, 6, over minus 2 times 2, 4, equal to negative 2 over 2 equal to negative 1. Choice B. Question number 7. If x power 3 plus y power 3 minus xy equals 0, then find y prime. Differentiate both sides. 3x power 2 plus 3y power 2y prime minus 9, the first one, times the derivative of the second one plus the second one times the derivative of the first one equals 0. Open this bracket. 3x power 2 plus 3y power 2y prime minus 9xy prime minus 9y equal 0. Then 3x power 2 minus 9y equal to 9xy prime minus 3y square y prime. Then 3x power 2 minus 9y equal to y prime factorized by y prime, 9x minus 3y square. Then y prime equal to 3x power 2 minus 9y over 9x minus 3y power 2. At the point, then the right choice is factorize for the numerator by 3 x power 2 minus 3y over 3, also the denominator 3x minus y square equal to x power 2 minus 3y over 3x minus y square. Then if we factorize both numerator and denominator by the negative, then 3y plus x square over y square minus 3x. The right choice is C. Question number 8. If y equal e to the sine x, find dy over dx, factorize both sides with respect to x, y prime equal to derivative of sine cosine x times e to the sine x. Since e to the sine x is y, then we can rewrite it as y prime equal y cosine x. Choice A. Set of questions, page number 126. Question number 1. What is the slope of x power 2 plus y of the curve x power 2 plus y power 2 equal 13 at the point negative 2, 3. First, we find the derivative y prime 2x plus 2y y prime equals 0. Then 2y y prime equal to negative 2x. Then y prime equal negative 2x over 2y. Reduce 2 with 2. The answer is negative x over y. At the point negative 2, 3, then the answer will be negative 2 over 3 equal to 2 over 3. Choice C. Question number 2. Find the slope of the curve at the point 3, negative 2. First, we find the derivative y prime dy over dx, 2y y prime equal to the denominator times the derivative of the numerator minus the numerator times the derivative of the denominator 1. over denominator square equal to, simplify, open this brackets, x minus 2 minus x minus 1 over x minus 2 power 2, x with x, negative 2 minus 1, negative 3 over x minus 2 all power 2. Then y prime equal to negative 3 over 2y times x minus 2 all power 2. At the point 3, negative 2, negative 3, 2 times negative 2, 3 minus 2 all power 2 equal to 3 minus 2, 1 power 2, 1, 2 times 2, 2 times negative 2, negative 4, 3, negative 3 over negative 4, 3 over 4. Choice B. Question number 3. Find the slope of the curve x power 2 plus y power 2 equals 16 at the point 0, 4. Differentiate both sides. 2x plus 2y y prime equals 0. Then 2y y prime equal to negative 2x. Then y prime equal negative 2x over 2y equal to negative x over y. At the point 0, 4 equal to negative 0, 0 over 4 equal 0. Choice B. Question number 4. Find the slope of the curve at the point 2, negative 3. Differentiate both sides. 2x plus 2y y prime equals 0. Then 2y y prime equal to negative 2x. Then y prime equal to negative 2x over 2y equal to negative x over y. At the point 2, negative 3, negative 2 over negative 3 equal to 2 over 3. Choice C. Question number 5. What is the slope of the curve x power 2 y power 2 equal 9 at the point negative 3, 1? The first function, the first term, x power 2 times the derivative of the second, 2y y prime, plus the second y power 2 times the derivative of the first 2x equal 0. Then 2y x power 2y prime plus 2xy square equal 0. Then 2y x power 2y prime equal to negative 2xy square. Then y prime equal to negative 2xy square over 2y x power 2. Then reduce 2 with 2, x with x power 2, y with y power 2. The result will be negative y over x. At the point negative 3, 1, negative 1 over negative 3 equal to 1 over 3. Choice B. Question number 6. Also, what is the slope of the curve at the point negative 1, 1? Differentiate both sides with respect to x, 2x minus the first one times derivative of the second plus the second times the derivative of the first one plus 2y y prime equals 0. Then 2x minus xy prime minus y plus 2y y prime equals 0. Then 2y y prime minus xy prime equal to y minus 2x. Then y prime times 2y minus x equal to y minus 2x. Then y prime equal to y minus 2x over 2y minus x. At the point negative 1, 1, 1 minus 2 times negative 1 over 2 times 1 minus negative 1 equal to negative times negative, positive 1 plus 2 over 2, negative times negative, positive equal to 3 over 3 equal 1. Choice C. Question number 7. Find what is the slope of the curve x power 2 plus y power 2 equal 5 at the point negative to 1. Differentiate both sides with respect to x. 2x plus 2y y prime equals 0. Then 2y y prime equal to negative 2x. Then y prime equal to negative 2x over 2y equal to negative x over y. At the point negative 2, 1, negative 2 over 1 equal to 2. Choice B. C. Question number 8. What is the slope of the curve of the function at the point 4, negative 3? Differentiate both sides. 2y y prime plus 0 equal to 3. Then y prime equal to 3 over 2y. At the point 4, negative 3, 3 over 2 times negative 3 equal to 3 with 3, 1 over negative 2 or negative 1 over 2. Choice D. Question number 9. What is the slope of the curve at the point 1 square root 2? Differentiate both sides. 2y y prime minus 2x equals 0. Then 2y y prime equal to 2x. Then y prime equal to reduce 2 with 2 x over y. At the point 1 square root 2, it will be 1 over square root 2. Choice A. Question number 10. What is the slope of the curve at the point 0, negative 4? Differentiate both sides with respect to x, 2x minus 8. The first function times the derivative of the second plus the second times the derivative of the first plus 2y y prime equal 0. Open this bracket. 2x minus 8x y prime minus 8y plus 2y y prime equal 0. Then 2x minus 8y equal to 8x y prime minus 2y y prime. Then 2x minus 8y equal to, factorized by y prime, 8x minus 2y, then y prime equal to 2x minus 8y over 8x minus 2y equal to, at the point 0, negative 4, negative 8 times negative 4 over negative 2 times negative 4. Negative 4 with negative 4, 2 with 8. The answer is 4. Choice C. Question number 11. What is the slope of the curve x plus 2 all power 2 minus y plus 3 all power 2 equal negative 7 at the point 1, negative 7? First we find the y prime, then we find it at the point 1, negative 7. Differentiate both sides with respect to x. 2 x plus 2 power 1 times 1 minus 2 y plus 3 power 1 times y prime equals 0. Then simplify 2x plus 4 minus 2y prime minus 6y prime equals 0. Then 2x plus 4 equal to 2y prime plus 6y prime. Then 2x plus 4 equal to y prime 2y plus 6. Then y prime equal to 2x plus 4 over 2y plus 6. Factorized by 2, x plus 2 over also factorized by 2, y plus 3. Reduce 2 with 2, x plus 2 over y plus 3. At the point 1, negative 7, 1 plus 2 over negative 7 plus 3 equal to 3 over negative 4 or negative 3 over 4. Choice B. Question number 12. What is the slope of the normal line of the curve x power 2 plus xy minus y power 2 equal negative 1? The slope of the normal line is the reciprocal of the tangent line of this curve at the point 1, 2. Then first we find the slope of the tangent line, then the negative reciprocal of it is the slope of the normal line. 2x plus x times y prime plus y minus 2y prime equals 0. Then 2x plus xy prime plus y minus 2y prime equals 0. Then 2x plus y equal to 2y prime minus xy prime. Then 2x plus y equal to y prime factorized by y prime 2y minus x. Then y prime equal to 2x plus y over 2y minus x. At the point 1, 2, 2 times 1 plus 2 over 2 times 2 minus 1 equal to 2 times 1, 2 plus 2, 4 over 2 times 2, 4 minus 1, 3. This is the slope of the tangent line. The slope of the normal line is negative 3 over 4. The negative reciprocal of this value. Choice A. What is the equation of the normal line to the curve x power 2 minus 3xy plus y power 2 equal negative 1? First, we find the slope and we have the point. We can find the equation. Differentiate both sides with respect to x. 2x minus 3, first one, times derivative of the second one, plus the second one times the derivative of the first one, plus 2y prime equals 0. Then 2x minus 3xy prime minus 3y plus 2y prime equals 0. Then set the term with y prime in one side. 2x minus 3y equal to factorized by y prime 3x minus 2y. Then y prime equal to 2x minus 3y over 3x minus 2y. At the point of tangency, 1, 1, 2 minus 3 over 3 minus 2 equal to negative 1 over 1 equal to negative 1. This is the slope of the tangent line. The slope of the normal is slope of normal is 1. And we have the point, then the equation is y minus y1 equal to the slope 1, x minus x1, 1. Then negative 1 with 1, y equal x is the correct equation. Y equal negative x, y equal x plus 1, y equal negative 1. The right choice is none. Question number 14, find the equation of the tangent to the curve x power 2 plus ln x plus y equal 1 at point 1, 0. First we find the slope and we have the point, then we can find the equation. 2x, differentiate both sides with respect to x, 2x plus x plus y, y prime, 1 plus y prime is equal 0. Then 1 plus y prime over x plus y equal to negative 2x. Then 1 plus y prime equal to negative 2x times x plus y. Then y prime equal to negative 2x squared minus 2xy minus 1. At the point of tangency 1, 0, y prime equal to negative 2 minus 0 minus 1 equal to negative 3. This is the slope and we have the point. Then the equation will be y minus y1, 0 equal to the slope x minus x1. Then y equal to 3x minus 1. Choice, negative 3, negative 3x times x minus 1. Choice B. Question number 15. Also find the equation of the tangent line to the curve x power 2 plus y power 2 equal 10 at the point 1, 3. First we find the slope 2x plus 2y, y prime equals 0. Then 2y, y prime equal to negative 2x, 2 with 2, then y prime equal to negative x over y. At the point 1, 3, negative 1 over 3. Then the equation is y minus y1, 3, equal to the slope negative 1 over 3, x minus x1, y. Then the equation is y equal to negative 1 over 3, x plus 1 over 3 plus 3 equal to negative 1 over 3 x plus 10 over 3. Choice C. Question number 16. Which one is correct number of horizontal tangent to the curve? First, we find the slope 2y and the point make the slope the derivative 0. It is the horizontal tangent line to the curve. 2y, y prime equal to y prime plus 2x. Then 2y, y prime minus y prime equal to 2x. Then y prime 2y minus 1 equal to 2x. Then y prime equal to 2x over 2y minus 1. Then set 2x over 2y minus 1 equals 0. Then 2x equals 0, then x equals 0. Substitute the value of x in the original function to find the number of value of y square equal to y, then y square minus y equals 0, then factorized by y minus 1 equals 0, then y equals 0, and y equal 1. Then there is 2.00 and 0, 1. The right choice is C. Question number 17. Which one is correct number of horizontal tangent line to the curve y power 4 equal to y square plus x square? First, we find y prime 4y power 3y prime equal to 2y prime plus 2x. Then 3y power 3y prime minus 2y prime equal to 2x. Then factorized by y prime, 3y power 3, 4y power 3 minus 2y equal to 2x. Then y prime equal to 2x over 4y power 3 minus 2y. Set it equals 0. Cross multiplication, then 2x equals 0, then x equals 0. Substitute in the original equation to find the value of y. This gives you y power 4 equal to y square. Then y power 4 minus y square equals 0. Factorized by y square. Y minus 1, y square minus 1 equals 0. Either y equals 0 or y square minus 1 equals 0, then y equal negative positive 1. We check this is 3 point in the derivative to find which one is correct. When y equals 0, the derivative is undefined because 2 times 0, 0 over 0 minus 0, 0. Therefore, we neglect 0. Then the right choice is 2. See you next lesson.